We all have to deal with it really in our own way and in our own time, not the way other people tell us to deal with it.
She was the most famous child in America, appearing in publications and movies at an incredibly young age.
I was 13, I think, when I first met him, and we were fans of each other's.
Brooke Shields was everywhere in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of becoming another tragic child star story, Brooke fought back.
A victim of assault and was never going to talk about it again.
She went to Princeton, challenged the industry that exploited her, spoke openly about postpartum depression when celebrities stayed silent, and spent decades reclaiming the narrative that had been written about her since infancy. But here's what they don't tell you about Brooke Shields' story.
How do you feel about all this fuss that's being made over you?
I think it's kind of fun.
You really are an exquisite-looking young lady.
Her survival wasn't luck or natural resilience. It was a deliberate, decades-long battle to separate herself from the image that her own mother had helped create and profit from. So what really happened to Brooke Shields? Why did her mother allow and encourage it? And how did Brooke transform from America's most exploited child star into an empowered woman who finally controls her own story?
And I'll protect you. I'll answer
under
questions.
the guise of protection, but it was more ownership and fear.
The answer reveals the dark side of child stardom and the incredible strength it takes to heal from a childhood stolen for profit. Origins and discovery. New York City, 1965. Krista Brooke Camille. Shields was born into an upper-middle-class Manhattan family, but her parents' marriage was already falling apart. Her father, Frank, was a businessman. Her mother, Terry, was a former model and actress who'd never achieved the success she'd dreamed of. When Brooke's parents divorced before her first birthday, Terry saw her daughter as a second chance. Not at marriage or family, but at fame and fortune.
Director, or could you reach him like other Earthlings couldn't?
Beep, beep, beep. Yes, I could.
Terry had failed to become a star herself, so she would make her daughter one instead. At just 11 months old, Brooke appeared in her first advertisement for Ivory Soap. The campaign featured her as a cherubic baby, innocent and pure. Terry was already building a brand around her infant daughter's beauty, and the money was good enough to make it worth pursuing. Throughout Brooke's early childhood, modeling jobs came steadily. Magazine ads, catalog work, and commercials. Terry managed every aspect of her daughter's career with the intensity of someone who saw this as her own redemption.
And I was like the person that he would call because these other famous people would sort of really like prey on him.
But Terry's ambitions extended far beyond simple child modeling. She wanted Brooke to be famous, not just successful. Rising fame. In the late 1970s, Brooke began acting in films that stirred public attention and controversy. Though she was still a child, the media fascination only grew stronger. The exposure brought both fame and scrutiny, making Brooke one of the most talked about young stars of her generation. Then came the Calvin Klein jeans campaign that made Brooke a household name. At 15, she appeared in commercials that became cultural touchstones.
It's the Brooke Shields doll with long, beautiful hair you can style in so many ways.
The ads were banned by some television networks, but ran widely enough to make Brooke one of the most recognizable faces in America. Terry had achieved her goal. Her daughter was famous. But the cost was Brooke's childhood, her privacy, and her autonomy over her own image. Childhood and fighting back. Throughout her teenage years, Brooke's life was a contradiction that nobody seemed to question. She was America's most famous teenager, but she had no control over her own image. Terry controlled everything: what roles Brooke took, how she appeared in public, who she could meet, and what she could say in interviews. The legal battles began when Brooke tried to regain control. At age 16, she sought to reclaim her rights over certain images from her early career. The case went all the way to the New York Court of Appeals. Brooke lost. The court ruled that because her mother had signed a release when Brooke was a child, the images could continue being used.
I mean, it's almost unfortunate because we know each other so well, but I mean, he amazes me every time.
Brooke had no legal right to control photographs from her early career because her mother had sold those rights years earlier. The ruling was devastating, not just legally, but emotionally. It confirmed what Brooke was beginning to understand. Her mother had valued money and fame over her daughter's well-being and dignity. But Brooke was already planning her escape. While continuing to model and act to support herself and her mother financially, she applied to Princeton University. The decision shocked Hollywood.
You know, you kind of look back and you think, you know, regrets. I mean, his mom was so lovely and he loved her.
Why would America's most famous teenager abandon her career for college? Princeton accepted her, and in 1983, Brooke enrolled as a French literature major. For the first time in her life, she was in an environment where her fame didn't define her. Classmates treated her like a student, professors challenged her to think critically, and she began to discover who she truly was beyond the image the world knew. The transition wasn't easy. The media mocked her academic ambitions, paparazzi followed her on campus, and some students viewed her as a celebrity trying to play serious scholar. But Brooke thrived academically. She proved that she was far more than her looks or reputation. Her senior thesis examined one of her early films from a thoughtful, critical perspective, something her younger self could never have done.
Revel in flowers and children and animals. And he's just, I mean, he talks about his work a little bit, but he really just talks about...
She graduated in 1987 with honors, becoming one of the few child stars to complete an Ivy League degree. The achievement was personal vindication, proof that she possessed both intelligence and depth beyond what Hollywood had ever acknowledged. Career challenges and renewal. After Princeton, Brooke faced a new challenge: how to transition from child star to adult actress. Hollywood didn't quite know what to do with her. She was too famous to ignore, but too closely tied to her early image to easily cast in new kinds of roles. The films she made in the late 1980s and early 1990s, including Brenda Starr, Speed Zone, and Backstreet Dreams, struggled at the box office. The same industry that had once rushed to promote her now seemed uninterested in her as an adult professional. Television eventually gave her the space she needed. In 1996, she starred in the sitcom Suddenly Susan, which became a hit and proved that she could carry a series through humor, charm, and genuine connection. Not image alone. The show ran for 4 seasons and helped reestablish her career on her own terms. Still, even as her professional life stabilized, Brooke was processing the emotional cost of her past, the years of exploitation, lack of control, and the deep pain of betrayal by those closest to her. These wounds do not heal easily, no matter how successful life becomes. Personal struggles and reinvention. In 1997, Brooke married tennis champion Andre Agassi in what seemed like a fairy tale romance. But the marriage ended just 2 years later, amid personal struggles and differences in priorities. In 2001, she married television writer Chris Henchy, a partnership that brought genuine support and stability. With him, Brooke found the balance she had long searched for. Their daughters, Rowan, born 2003, and Greer, born 2006, gave her the chance to experience family life in a healthy, nurturing way. Motherhood also brought new challenges. After Rowan's birth, Brooke developed severe postpartum depression, a condition rarely discussed publicly at that time. The experience was overwhelming, and she bravely chose to speak about it instead of hiding her pain. In 2005, she published Down Came the Rain, a memoir about her struggle and recovery. The book was groundbreaking, one of the first major celebrity accounts to discuss postpartum depression and mental health treatment openly. Her courage helped countless women feel seen and supported. When publicly criticized for taking prescribed medication, Brooke responded with grace and strength, defending her right to seek medical help and promoting understanding for others in similar situations. This marked a new chapter in her life, one defined by honesty, advocacy, and self-respect. Resolution and legacy. So what really happened to Brooke Shields? She spent decades transforming from a controlled child performer into a woman who directs her own story. Her 2023 documentary, Pretty Baby, Brooke Shields allowed her to take ownership of her past and tell her story in her own voice for the first time. In it, she spoke honestly about the challenges of early fame and how she found empowerment through education, therapy, and family. Today, Brooke is an author, performer, and advocate who champions mental health awareness and child protection in entertainment. She turned pain into purpose and became a symbol of strength and self-reclamation. Brooke Shields proved that even after a childhood shaped by others, you can reclaim your story, heal from the past, and build a future defined by your own choices.